So, you're a medieval king. Congratulations. Maybe. Let's see how long you last. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're enjoying these slow, sleepy steps through the weirdness of history. And tell me, where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it there? I read every comment. You might be on a train, in bed, or under a blanket somewhere, trying not to think about Monday. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Now then, dim your lights. Pull your covers a little closer. Let the sounds settle into the room. And let's begin. You wake up to bells. Not gentle chimes or soft bird song. No. This is the 1300s. It's the clanging of iron from the chapel tower below your window, ringing not out of reverence, but out of pure spite. It's 6:00 in the morning. Maybe. No clocks yet, just the noise. You're in bed. Well, sort of. Technically it's a bed. 4 thick posts carved from oak, draped in fabric so heavy it could survive a siege. The mattress is stuffed with straw, feathers, and probably at least one rat who pays rent in fleas. The blanket smells faintly of wet wool and unspoken royal secrets. You blink, you're alone. That's rare. Normally your wife, your consort, favorite mistress, or one of your 8 royal hunting dogs would be somewhere in this bed, taking up most of the space. But this morning, just you and a draft. A very pointed, deliberate draft sneaking in under the door like it has a political agenda. You swing your legs over the side of the bed. Regret immediately follows. Your knees pop like firewood. Your ankles feel like they've been politely disassembled and reassembled incorrectly by a team of drunk masons. Your otus kis, which is, let's be honest, elderly in this time period. You're a walking miracle. You should get a feast just for waking up. Maybe you will. You're the king. After all. You ring a bell to summon your attendants. It's a small bronze thing that makes the same noise whether you're asking for a hot bath or declaring war. You shake it twice and wait. The sound echoes down a hallway somewhere. You hear one servant trip, a second one sigh. Footsteps shuffle toward you like they're negotiating with fate. A boy named Anselm enters. He's 12, underpaid, and already developing back pain from carrying royal night chamber pots. He bows so deeply, he nearly headbutts the floor. Good morning, Your Majesty, he mumbles. You grunt. He takes this as permission to approach. It carries your robe, which smells like lavender, whetstone, and wealth. He helps you into it, hands trembling. You're not terrifying, but the crown is. Speaking of which, it waits on your dressing table. Gold. Heavy. Slightly crooked from being dropped that one time during a feast. You remember you'd had 6 cups of wine and tried to toast yourself? The crown didn't forgive you. You glance at it now and feel the same old weight in your chest. Not from the gold. From what it means. The crown doesn't care that your knees hurt, that your brother-in-law wants your throne, that people haven't seen a tax reduction in 3 reigns. The crown just waits silent. Judgmental. And always a little dusty. Anselm clears his throat. Shall I fetch the royal physician to inspect your foot? Sire. You look down. Yes? Your royal foot is swollen again. Red. Unforgiving. Probably the venison. Probably everything. But you wave him off. Later. For now, you shuffle toward the window. Robe dragging behind you. Crown still untouched. You look out at your kingdom, at the mist curling over the hills, the rooftops glistening with frost, the town waking up beneath your rule. You sip from a goblet left out from last night, its lukewarm wine and regret, and somehow, despite the gout, the loneliness, the cold, and the endless weight of decision, you still feel like a king. It's not even breakfast, and you already feel like you've lived an entire reign. You swing your legs over the side of the bed. Regret immediately follows. Your knees pop like firewood. Your ankles feel as if they've been politely disassembled and reassembled incorrectly by a team of drunken masons. You're 38, which, let's be honest, is elderly in this time period. You're a walking miracle. You should get a feast just for waking up. Maybe you will. You're the king. After all, you ring a bell to summon your attendants. It's a small bronze thing that makes the same noise whether you're asking for a hot bath or declaring war. You shake it twice and wait. The sound echoes down a hallway somewhere. You hear one servant trip, another sigh. Footsteps shuffle toward you, as if they're negotiating with fate. A boy named Anselm enters. He's 12. Underpaid. And already developing back pain from carrying royal chamber pots. He bows so deeply, he nearly headbutts the floor. Good morning. Your Majesté. He mumbles. You grunt. He takes this as permission to approach. It carries your robe, which smells of lavender, wet stone, and wealth. He helps you into it. Hands trembling. You're not terrifying, but the crown is. Speaking of which, it waits on your dressing table, gold, heavy, slightly crooked from being dropped that one time during a feast. You remember 6 cups of wine and an attempt to toast yourself. The crown didn't forgive you. You glance at it now and feel the familiar weight in your chest, not from the gold, but from what it means. The crown doesn't care that your knees hurt, that your brother-in-law covets your throne, or that the people haven't seen a tax reduction in 3 reigns. It just waits silent, judgmental, and always a little dusty. Anselm clears his throat. Shall I fetch the royal physician to inspect your foot? Sire. You look down. Yes. Your royal foot is swollen again. Red. Unforgiving. Probably the venison. Probably everything. But you wave him off. Later. For now. You shuffle toward the window. Robe dragging behind you. Crown still untouched. You look out at your kingdom mist curling over the hills. Rooftops glistening with frost. The town waking beneath your rule. You sip from a goblet left out from last night. It's lukewarm wine tasting of regret. And somehow, despite the gout, the loneliness, the cold, and the endless weight of decisions, you still feel like a king. At midday, you finally rise. Stiff. Sore? Drained. You're ushered to a side room for a moment of reprieve. A steward offers wine. You accept without speaking. You sit in a smaller chair, less ornate, more merciful, and drink in slow gulps. The fire crackles nearby. You stare into it. This is your kingdom. This hall? These voices, this noise, and though it exhausts you, though it gnaws at your patience like a bored terrier, you belong to it just as it belongs to you. You remain in the solar longer than planned. The fire has softened your joints a little, and the wine imported, sharp, expensive enough to offend the peasants, is taking the edge off your temper. You swirl it in the goblet like it's going to give you answers. It doesn't. It never does. The room is quiet except for the fire and the sound of someone sneezing in the hallway and pretending they didn't. You think about ignoring the afternoon session entirely? Just not showing up? Pulling your rope tighter? Drawing the curtains? And claiming a noble illness. The king has a humoral imbalance. Everard would say he requires rest, leeches, and boiled roots. No one would question it. Not publicly, but you don't. Because kings don't get to disappear. Not unless they want their cousin Baldwin to slide onto the throne while they nap. You stand slowly, one vertebra at a time. Your knees sound like a basket of walnuts being stepped on. You wince. You're starting to suspect the royal physician is avoiding you out of professional shame. You may be the only king in history with a limp caused by ceremonial dancing. You pull your robe tighter and step back into the corridor. The castle is buzzing now. Servants bustle past like bees with bad posture. A messenger from the north has arrived and looks like he's been dragged here by a mule, and the will of spite. He smells like wet leather and anxiety. He bows so low, his cap nearly catches fire from the torch beside him. A report from the border. Sire, you take it. Unroll it. It's smeared. Damp. And mostly legible. There's trouble again. There's always trouble. Bandits this time. Are rebels. Or just hungry farmers who got tired of watching tax collectors ride past on horses fat from the king's grain. You stare at the paper. You know whatever Everard will suggest. Send troops. Show strength. Make an example. But you remember what your mother once said, you only scare people into silence. Not loyalty. You fold the scroll and tuck it away. Later. For now, the council chamber awaits. It's worse than usual. Everyone's talking at once. Maps are unfurled. Coins are scattered on tables to represent troops. Someone's arguing about harvest projections. Someone else is mad about hay. Hey. You close your eyes briefly. Breathe. Imagine you're anywhere else. On a boat. In a tavern. Even in a muddy field as a common man. If it meant 5 minutes of peace, you raise a hand. Slowly. The room quiets. No need to yell. Your silence has more power than their noise. We will send riders north. You say? But with grain, not swords. Let them eat first. If they burn it, then we march. Everard Bristles. The bishop frowns. But no one speaks. And just like that, you've bought yourself a little more time. A little more quiet. And maybe, just maybe, a little more sleep tonight. The meeting ends with a slow unravel. Council members shuffle out like monks after a sermon. All pretending they weren't just 2 minutes away from drawing swords over wheat tariffs. Everard Lingish. Of course. He always does. You give him the usual vague wave? The universal royal signal for leave me alone. But pretend I dismissed you formally. He nods like it was his idea and disappears down the corridor. Already muttering about parchment. You step into the library. One of the few places in the castle where silence feels like yours. The fire's low. The shelves are tall. And the smell of old books and dust, forgotten promises, hangs thick in the air. You love this room. Not because you read often. Half these books are in Latin. And the other half were copied by monks with terrible handwriting and strong opinions. But because it's still, and stillness is rare. You pull a scroll from the shelf. You don't even look at the title. You just sit in the window seat, one that overlooks the south orchard, and pretend you're here because you have scholarly intentions. Really? You just want to sit and not be asked a question. You unroll the scroll and let your eyes blur over it. Something about irrigation. Possibly poetry. Hard to say. Down below, you see the orchard keeper chasing a goose with a broom. You watch, expressionless. As the goose wins again, you suspect the goose may be possessed. You make a mental note to bring it up with the bishop right after you approve his roof of silver-plated hubris. Your stomach growls loudly. And now you realize you never finished breakfast or lunch, anything that wasn't politically seasoned. You think about calling for something simple? Bread. Cheese. A boiled egg that doesn't come with a garnish, the size of a boat sail. But you already know what would happen. 5 servants. A silver platter. 3 courses. Applause. You stay hungry. It's easier. There's a knock on the frame of the door. It's Tilda. One of your oldest attendants. She's been with the castle longer than some of the Stones. She doesn't bow. No need to. She just gives you a look that says, "You've been in here too long." And I know it. In her hand, a small plate bread, cheese, and 1 fig. Slightly bruised. She sets it on the table beside you without a word. You glance up. "Thank you." She grunts. Then walks out. You sit there a while longer, chewing slowly, staring out at the orchard. Scroll still open beside you like a prop in a play. You no longer care to perform. You are still wearing the crown. You take it off. Set it beside the plate. And just breathe. Afternoon as king is strange. You're not expected to do anything specific. Just be available. Which is, in its own way, worse than being busy. You're a statue with a pulse. A man dressed in velvet who exists to be stared at, interrupted, and occasionally bowed to. Most days, you wander the quieter wings of the castle, not because you have business there, but because it's one of the few places where people don't find you. Today, you end up in the gallery. It's long, cold, and lined with portraits of your ancestors, most of whom look like they died of either boredom or gout. One of them, your great-grandfather, Alaric, is painted holding a scepter with one hand and a squirrel with the other. No one knows why. You've asked? No one answers. You pause before your own unfinished portrait. It's been stuck in progress for 6 months. The painter is afraid to finish the eyes. They change too much. He said once, "You're not sure if it was an excuse or a compliment. Maybe both. Right now, it just means your painted face has a very detailed nose and a disturbingly blank stare." You keep walking. The guards nod as you pass. One sneezes and tries to bow at the same time, nearly hitting the stone wall. You nod, pretending not to notice. It's strange how exhausting it can be to be noticed everywhere and still not really seen. You step out into the small courtyard. The sun's low, and it spills gold across the cobbles like someone spilled treasure and didn't bother picking it up. You sit on a bench, one that creaks. Because of course it does. Everything in this castle creaks, including your knees. A child runs by. Someone's son. He doesn't bow. Doesn't stop. Just laughs and chases a stick, like it's a dragon. You watch him, remembering a time when you did the same. Before crowns. Before councils. Before waking up every day with a list of people who need you to decide what kind of bread they're allowed to sell in their village. You close your eyes for a moment, just to listen. There's a bird in the ivy above the wall, a soft breeze moving through the trees, the distant clang of training swords down in the yard, and for a fleeting moment, no decisions to make, no titles, no duty, just you sitting, breathing, being. The moment doesn't last. Footsteps approach. A page. Panting. Your Majesty. The steward says, the Duchess of Varn has arrived early. She's waiting in the antechamber with 2 swans and a poet. You open one eye. Did you say swans? The page nods. Yes. See, one is wearing a ribbon. You sigh. Stand. Brush off the crumbs from your lap. Pick up the weight of your title again, like it's a second cloak. Fine. You mutter. Let's go meet the birds. You walk through stone halls toward the antechamber. Your robe whispering along the floor behind you, like a very judgmental shadow. The steward greets you at the door with a bow so deep you fear he might never return upright. She's in a cheerful mood. He says, voice low, and she's brought gifts. You squint at him. Is one of them silence? He pretends not to hear. Inside, the Duchess of Varn is already holding court. Despite being very much in your court, she's draped in furs thick enough to smother a small horse, and she's surrounded by an entourage of nervous servants and one poet who looks like he's lost a bet. The swans, yes, 2 of them, are tethered by delicate cords of silk and seem remarkably unfazed by being indoors. One is pecking the other. The other is plotting revenge. Your Majesty. The Duchess booms, her voice coated in the honeyed arrogance of someone who owns more land than she's ever seen. How radiant you look. The sunlight favors your face today. You consider telling her the sunlight isn't even in this room. Instead, you bow your head slightly. Your Grace. I trust your journey was interesting. She cackles. One of the swans refused the river ferry. Had to ride in the carriage like a countess. The poet, standing at her elbow, coughs into his sleeve and mutters something about avian nobility. You glance at him. He wears a velvet cap and the vacant look of a man who has survived 3 readings of his own work in the same afternoon. Do you bring word from Van? You ask. Already regretting it? She waves her hand like the subject is beneath her. Trade is steady. Grain is fat. My nephew is considering monkhood. And I've discovered a new spice. Red as blood. Smells like burnt garlic. Very fashionable. She says this as though she invented it. She probably believes she did. She gestures to the poet. Recite. He sighs like a man being marched to the gallows and opens a scroll. Ahem. An ode to a king in the style of a dove? After dream turnips, you raise a hand. Let's skip that part. The Duchess laughs again. He's shy. she says, patting your arm like you're a wayward child instead of the man who could, with a single nod, have her banquet hall filled with goats. Now, Your Majesty, I simply must talk with you about expanding the Eastern Road. You see, my swans need a smoother ride. You stare at her for a beat. Is this a metaphor? Or are we still talking about actual swans? Both, she says brightly. An hour passes. You listen to her, make demands. Offer, gossip. Flirt, badly. And misquote scripture. You sip wine that you don't remember asking for. You nod at all the right moments and resist the urge to fake a fainting spell just to escape the room. Eventually, she stands. You've been such a gracious host, she says, clearly preparing to talk for another 20 minutes. But you rise, take her hand, and bow. Always a pleasure. Duchess, may your return journey be uneventful for you and your birds. She beams, clearly taking it as a compliment. As she leaves, the poet mouths, "Thank you. Adieu." You consider adopting him out of pity. And just like that, the room is quiet again. Well, except for the swan that left a message on your rug. You stare at it. Then look up. This is still better than the council meeting. You don't go straight back to the council chamber after the Duchess departs. You need a moment. A long one. Maybe a month. You walk slowly down the corridor. Past tapestries that depict your ancestors winning battles you're not sure ever happened. One of them shows a man, possibly your great-uncle, strangling a wolf with one hand and kissing a nun with the other. You stare at it for a while, trying to decide if you're impressed or just deeply concerned. The castle is quieter now. Late afternoon has a way of softening everything. Voices, footsteps, even ambition. The servants are more tired. The guards relaxed. The stone corridors echo less. Everyone's just waiting for supper. You slip through a side door and take the back way up to the North Tower. It's rarely visited. Too many stairs. Not enough gold. Which is exactly why you like it. Up here, the wind hums against the arrow slits. And the dust doesn't care what title you wear. There's an old chair by the window. And for a moment, you let yourself sit without poise. You lean back. Let your arms fall. Stomach expand, like it hasn't had to impress anyone since breakfast. From this height, the kingdom looks unreal. Like a painting. The town is laid out in soft lines and crooked chimneys. The fields beyond wave like a worn green blanket. And far in the distance, a thin ribbon of river glints in the fading light. It's beautiful. And it makes you feel something dangerously close to small. Which is oddly nice. There's a knock at the door. A soft one. You consider ignoring it, but you know the rhythm. It's Tilda. No one else knocks. Like they're testing the wall for secrets. She enters without waiting. Of course. She sets down a wooden cup on the windowsill. Warm cider. Stolen from the steward's private stash. You raise an eyebrow. You steal for me now, she shrugs. I steal back for you. It was yours to begin with. He just didn't know it. You nod. Take the cup. RSEP. It's sweet, sharp, and laced with cinnamon. Your eyes close for a second longer than expected. She watches you. Arms crossed. You haven't eaten properly in 2 days. Your leg's swollen again. And you smell like formal diplomacy? You glance at her. That bad. You smell like ribbon poultry and lies. You chuckle. But it catches in your throat. It's not that funny. Not really. She softens. Just a little. You don't have to be steel every hour of the day. You know, you look out the window. If I'm not steel, I bend? Maybe. She says, but you've been brittle lately. You don't answer. You just keep sipping the cider and watching the sun pull its last gold streak across the world you're responsible for. Before she leaves, she adds, there's soup at the fire tonight. I'll bring some. And if you try to give it to the dog again, I'll make sure your robes shrink. She steps halfway down the stairs before you manage a quiet thank you. Not as king. Just as someone who needed a minute. You stay in the North Tower longer than planned. The cider warms you from the inside out. And the silence feels earned. Not forced. Outside, the last threads of daylight slip behind the hills, taking with them whatever pressure was still clinging to your shoulders. Down below, the torches are being lit one by one. It looks like the kingdom is exhaling. You should go back. But instead, you stay seated in the old chair, rubbing your thumb along the rim of the cider cup. It's smooth and worn, like it's been passed through more hands than the throne itself. You wonder how many kings have sat here before you? Probably none. Most preferred the solar or the war room. You've always liked places people forget about. You close your eyes for a moment and let your mind wander. Not to war or taxes or cousins who think they'd make a better monarch, but to the first time you walked into the throne room, not as a king, but as a boy. You were 13, maybe 14, wearing boots that didn't fit and a belt that kept sliding. The hall felt impossibly large back then. The crown seemed like a joke, something that belonged to a storybook or a coin. You remember thinking, there's no way I'll survive this. You were right, in a way. That version of you didn't survive. He grew into someone else. You open your eyes and glance down at your hands. The rings feel heavier now. The calluses from your training days are still faintly there. Ghosts beneath soft skin. Your fingers used to hold a bow. Now they hold a scepter and ache from too much writing. From behind the stone wall, you hear faint music. A lute. Maybe. Someone practicing. Not well. Probably Aldred. The stable boy with dreams of becoming a bard. The tune stumbles. Repeats. Stumble again. You smile? Not because it's good, but because it's honest. There's something comforting about that. You finally rise. Joints, protesting, as always. You're not old, but your bones have questions. You stretch. Sigh. Set the empty cup down gently on the sill. It'll be gone by morning. Tilda sees to everything. You descend the tower slowly. Cloak, trailing behind like the ghost of your younger self. The castle is glowing now. Candles and alcoves. Hearths burning low. The distant echo of someone laughing in the servants' quarters. You envy them sometimes. Not their work, but their ease with each other. At the bottom of the stairs, a scribe nearly walks into you. He stammers, bows, drops a scroll, picks it up, bows again. You wave him off gently. Don't worry, I was never here. He smiles, a real one, then scurries off. And for the first time today, You feel less like a king and more like a person wearing a crown that finally fits. The castle changes at night. It exhales. The stones seem warmer. The torch is lower. The footsteps softer. You make your way through the halls. Not like a monarch surveying his domain, but like someone slipping back into something familiar. You don't need a procession. You don't want one. The guards nod. But don't follow. Tilda must have told them. It's that kind of night. You pass the chapel. Quiet now. Except for a single flickering candle and the faint scent of old incense and even older confessions. Someone's inside, whispering a prayer that probably has nothing to do with you. And for once, that's a relief. You enter the lower hearth hall. A tucked-away chamber near the kitchens where the air smells like ash, onions, and the past. It's where you go when you want to eat without being watched. No trumpets. No feast. No taster waiting to die, heroically. Just a bowl, a spoon, and enough space to sit without needing to sit up straight. Tilda's already there. Of course. She gestures to the seat closest to the fire and hands you a bowl before you even say anything. It's hot, thick, and full of things you can actually name. You eat in grateful silence, letting the warmth of the broth chase the chill from your spine. Still wearing the crown? She says eventually. You reach up, startled, and then laugh. It's become such a part of you that you forget it's there. You pull it off and set it on the bench beside you. It looks oddly small now, like something a child might pretend with. Tilda pours something dark and strong into a second cup and hands it to you. Careful, she warns. It bites on the way down. You sip. It does. But it also numbs your gums in a comforting way. You raise the cup in her direction. You could rule. You know, she snorts. I already do. You're just the figurehead. You nod. You're not entirely sure she's joking. Willett appears not long after, somehow managing to track soup by scent alone. Ah. Royal leftovers, he says, settling in beside the fire and stretching like a cat that survived too much weather. Tilda, you absolute goddess of broth? Your soup makes me believe in a future I have no evidence for. He's followed by Godric, who doesn't speak. He just sits, pours his own drink, clinks his cup against yours in a toast without words. You sit together, king. Servant, falconer, soldier in a room that never asks questions. The fire crackles. The bowl's empty. The night deepens. And for a little while, no one talks about kingdoms or decisions, or what waits beyond the castle walls. You're just people breathing, eating, warming your bones beside the fire. And in that quiet, with the crown resting beside you instead of on your head, you feel something rare? Rested. The hearth fire in the lower hall burns low, and the warmth lingers, like a guest who knows it's time to leave, but hasn't quite found the door. Tilda, Willett, and Godric have gone, each slipping away with a nod or a quiet word, leaving you alone with the embers and your thoughts. The crown still rests on the bench beside you, its gold dull in the flickering light. Less a symbol of power now, and more a tired companion. You don't pick it up. Not yet. You lean back, the wooden chair creaking under your weight, and let your eyes trace the shadows on the stone wall. They dance like courtiers at a feast. All movement and no substance. The castle is quiet now. Quieter than it's been all day. No footsteps. No voices. No clanging bells. Just the soft pop of the fire and the distant howl of wind through the upper towers. It's the kind of quiet that makes you notice yourself, your breathing, the ache in your shoulders, the faint pulse in your temple. You're tired. But it's not the kind of tired that comes from running or fighting. It's the weight of a day spent being king, of carrying a title that fits like a cloak, cut for someone larger. You think about the Duchess of Varn and her swans? Everard's endless parchment. The border report. You still haven't read? You could call for a scribe. Deal with it now. But you don't. The world can wait. For once. It's just you and the fire. And the fire doesn't ask for your signature. You reach for the cup Tilda left behind. But it's empty. You set it down with a small laugh. More breath than sound? Of course it's empty. Everything feels a little empty at this hour. You stand. Slower than you'd like. And pick up the crown. It's heavier now. Or maybe you're just weaker. You place it back on your head. Not because you want to, but because it's easier than carrying it. The hall feels larger as you leave. Like it's stretching out to remind you of your place. You walk through the corridors. Your steps soft against the stone. The guards are fewer now. Their nods sleepy but respectful. One, a young man with a scar above his eye. Murmurs. Good night. See ya. As you pass, you nod back, surprised by how much it means. It's not the bowing or the title, it's the fact that he said it like he meant it. You pause at a window overlooking the courtyard. The moon is high, spilling silver across the cobbles. The child from earlier, the one chasing a stick, is gone. Probably asleep in some corner of the servants' quarters. You wonder what he dreams of? Dragons. Maybe. Or fields without taxes. You envy him that freedom. The kind only a child can have. Where the world is still a story waiting to be told. Your chambers are at the end of the west wing. Behind a heavy oak door, carved with vines and stags. It creaks as you push it open. A sound you've come to expect. Like the castle itself is grumbling about the late hour. Inside, the room is warm. Thanks to a fire. Someone probably Tilda lit before you arrived. The bed is turned down. The furs neatly folded. And a single candle burns on the table. Its flame steady, despite the draft. You set the crown on a wooden stand by the bedside. It looks out of place here. Too grand for a room that smells of wax and wool. You sit on the edge of the bed, untying your robe with fingers that fumble more than they used to. The fabric pools around you, and for a moment, you're just a man. Not a king. Not a title. Just someone who's lived through another day. You lie back. The mattress sinking under you. Familiar and forgiving. The ceiling is high. Lost in shadows. But you don't mind. You've always liked the dark. It's honest. No one can hide in it. Not really. But it doesn't judge you either. Your eyes drift to the fire. Smaller now. Its glow painting the walls in soft oranges and reds. You think about tomorrow. There's a council meeting. Of course. Everard will have a new list of complaints. The border report needs an answer. And someone will probably ask about the Duchess's swans. Because apparently that's your life now. But those are problems for the morning. For the king who'll wake up to bells and put the crown back on. For now, you're just you. And that's enough. Your breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the fire's faint crackle. The wind outside hums against the window. A lullaby older than the castle itself. You close your eyes, and the world slips away. Piece by piece. Until there's nothing left but the dark and the dreamless sleep you've been chasing all day. The bells wake you again. Same as yesterday. Same as always. Their iron clang cuts through the fog of sleep like a blade. Sharp and unyielding. You lie there for a moment, eyes tracing the familiar shadows on the ceiling of your chambers. The furs are heavy across your chest, the fire long dead, leaving the room cold enough to make your breath visible. It's morning, but it doesn't feel like a new day. Just another verse in the same song. You sit up, wincing as your knees remind you they're not your allies. The crown waits on its stand, glinting faintly in the grey light seeping through the window. You ignore it for now, pulling on a robe that's more wool than velvet. Something plain enough to make Everard frown. You splash water on your face from a basin, the cold biting your skin awake. A servanoc, timid, and enters with a tray bread, cheese, a boiled egg, no fanfare, just food. Tilda's doing. No doubt. You eat standing, chewing slowly, staring out at the kingdom as it stirs below. The town is already moving, smoke curling from chimneys, carts creaking along the roads, a dog barking at something it doesn't understand. You finish the egg, wipe your hands, and reach for the crown. It settles on your head like an old debt. The door opens again. This time, without a knock. It's Everard, parchment in hand, looking like he's been awake since the stars were out. Trouble. Sire? He says. No preamble. You don't ask what kind. You just take the scroll and unroll it. The border again. Worse this time. Not bandits or hungry farmers, but something sharper rumors of a lordling from the neighboring kingdom, stirring trouble, testing your resolve. He sent an emissary. Everard's, voice tight, arrived at dawn, waiting in the solar. You fold the scroll, hand it back, let him wait. You say, Everard blinks, but doesn't argue. You dress properly now, trading the wool robe for one with enough embroidery to remind everyone who you are. The council chamber is your first stop, though you already know what they'll say. Send troops. Show strength. Crush the spark before it's a fire. You listen as they argue, their voices piling up like stones. The bishop wants prayer and a public execution. The treasurer wants to bribe the lordling. Everard wants a siege. Because of course he does. You raise a hand, and the room falls silent. We talk first. You say, bring the emissary. They don't like it, but they don't argue. Not yet. The solar is brighter than the council chamber, with tall windows that let in the morning sun. The emissary is already there, standing by a table. Dressed in silks that scream wealth and bad taste, he's young, sharp-eyed, with a smile that's all teeth and no warmth. Your Majesty, he says, bowing just enough to avoid insult. His voice is smooth, practiced, like he's been rehearsing in front of a mirror. My lord sends his regards and hopes for peace. You don't sit. You stand, letting the crown catch the light. Peace, you say, or an excuse to test my borders. His smile doesn't falter, but his eyes narrow. A misunderstanding. He says, my lord only wishes to secure his lands. As you do yours? You step closer. Close enough to smell his perfume cloying. Expensive. Tell your lord. You say, voice low, that my lands are secure? If he wants to test that, he'll find more than farmers waiting. The emissary's smile finally cracks. Just for a moment. He recovers. Bows again. Deeper this time. I'll convey your words. He says, you nod, dismissing him with a wave. He leaves. His footsteps sharp against the stone. And the room feels larger without him. Everard is at your side before the door even closes. We should prepare the garrisons. He says, you nod, but your mind is elsewhere. You're thinking of your mother again. Her words about loyalty and silence. You wonder if this lordling can be reasoned with, or if he's already too far gone. For now, you've bought time, but time is a currency that spends fast. The solar is quiet again. The sun climbing higher, painting the walls in gold. You sit, finally, and let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. The day's only begun. And you're already tired. You remain in the solar after the emissary leaves. The silence settling like dust. The sun is higher now. Its light cutting through the windows in sharp. Hold the bars. Everard is gone. Off to draft orders for the garrisons. His boots echoing down the corridor. You're alone. But the weight of the morning lingers the emissary's smirk. The council's bickering. The scroll you still haven't fully read. You sit, staring at the table, where a map lies half unrolled, its edges curling like a tired hand. You trace a finger along the border, where the trouble brews. It's just ink and parchment, but it feels alive, pulsing with the choices you'll have to make. Send swords. Send grain. Send words. None feel right. You lean back, the chair creaking, and think of your mother again. You only scare people into silence. Not loyalty. You wonder if she'd have talked to the lordling herself. Invited him to supper. Disarmed him with a smile. You're not her. You're not sure you could be. The room feels too small suddenly. The walls too close. You need air. Not stone. You stand. Adjust the crown it's slipping again and leave the solar without a word to the guards. They don't follow. Tildas orders. Probably. You take the side stairs, the ones that lead to the outer gate, and step into the town. The air is different here. Thicker. Alive with the smell of bread. Sweat. And horse dung. The streets are narrow. Crooked. Lined with shops and houses that lean into each other like old friends. People move around you. Some bowing. Some staring. Some pretending not to see you. You're not dressed for a procession. No? Velvet? No retinue. Just a cloak and the crown, which you regret not leaving behind. A baker. flour-dusted and red-faced, catches your eye and offers a loaf. Still warm? You take it, thank him, and hand him a coin from your pouch. He bows, stammers, tries to give it back. Keep it, you say, and walk on before he can argue. The bread is heavy in your hands, its crust cracking under your fingers. You break off a piece and eat as you walk, the taste grounding you, pulling you back to something simple. A child runs past, chasing a hoop with a stick, nearly crashing into a cart of apples. The vendor yells. The child laughs. And you smile despite yourself? This is your kingdom. Too, not just maps and councils, but people who live and laugh and curse the mud in their boots. You stop at a well, where two women are drawing water. Their voices low but sharp with gossip. They don't notice you at first. Not until one glances up and freezes. Bucket half raised. Your Majesté, she says, and the other drops her bucket entirely, water splashing her skirts. You wave off their apologies. No hamdoon. You say. They relax. Just a little. And you ask about the town? The harvest. The rumors from the border. They're hesitant at first, but soon they're talking about taxes. About a sick cow. About a peddler who swore he saw a wolf the size of a horse. You listen, nodding, letting their words fill the space, the council's arguments left empty. When you leave, they're still talking, but now they're smiling. You keep walking, past a blacksmith hammering iron, past a dog sleeping in a doorway, until you reach the garden fountain at the edge of town. It's old, moss-covered. Its water trickling more than flowing. You sit on its stone rim. The bread gone now. Crumbs dusting your cloak. The crown feels lighter here. Or maybe you're just used to it. You watch a bird splash in the fountain. Its wings flicking water into the air. For a moment, you're not a king deciding the fate of borders, but a man sitting by a fountain, listening to the world move around you. The sun is warm. The town hums. And you feel, if not at peace, then at least at rest. You know you'll have to go back soon. To the castle. To the scroll. To the choices that never end. But for now, you sit, and it's enough. You return to the castle as the sun dips low, painting the walls in shades of amber and shadow. The guards nod as you pass. Their faces softer now, tired from the day. The town's hum fades behind you, replaced by the familiar echo of stone corridors. You climb the stairs to the solar. Your steps slower, the crown heavy again. Inside, the room is warm, a fire crackling in the hearth. Probably Tilda's doing. A tray waits on the table bread. Cheese. A pitcher of wine. You pour a cup. Sip. And sit at the desk, where a stack of parchment looms like a small mountain. Letters to write. Replies to send. Decisions to etch in ink. You dip the quill. The scratch of nib on paper filling the silence. One letter to the northern lords. Urging, calm. Another to the bishop, promising to consider his chapel roof, though you both know you won't. A third to your sister, far away in her own court, asking about her children, though you know she'll read between the lines and hear your exhaustion. You write slowly. Your hand cramping. The words coming harder than they used to. You're not sure if it's age or just the weight of too many days like this one. You seal the letters, stack them neatly, and lean back. The chair groaning under you. The fire's lower now. Its glow softening the room's edges. You think about the day the emissary's sharp smile, the baker's warm loaf, the women at the well, the bird in the fountain. You think about the border, the lordling, the choices still waiting. You could call for Everard, go over the scroll again, but you don't. Not tonight. You stand, stretch, and walk to the window. The kingdom is dark now, save for the faint glow of torches in the town below. It's beautiful in its own way. Quiet. Unasking. You wonder what the child with the hoop is dreaming of. Or, if the baker's sleeping soundly, his oven cold. You hope so. You turn from the window, set the crown on its stand, and loosen your robe. The bed is waiting. Furs turned down, candle burning low. You lie down, the mattress familiar, sinking under you like an old friend. The ceiling is lost in shadows, but you don't mind. You've always liked the dark, it's honest. Hiding nothing, judging nothing. Your thoughts drift, not to borders or councils, but to smaller things, the taste of bread, the sound of water in the fountain, the way Tilda's eyes soften when she thinks you're not looking. Your breathing slows. The fire's crackle fading. The wind outside a distant hum. Tomorrow will bring bells. Everard. More parchment. More choices. But that's for the king who wakes up. For now, you're just a man, slipping into sleep, the world falling away like a cloak you finally set aside.